Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is going to be a reading today for the collective. I pulled some cards yesterday just to give me an idea of a pre shuffle, and the cards that I pulled were the Justice, the Strength card, and the Star. And this was talking to me about losing patience with being patient, as if you've been in a situation for a while that's just been a hamster wheel that's kind of gone nowhere. And you want to be in this situation. It's like you want it to work, you want it to grow and thrive, and you see the potential in it, but for whatever reason, it's not moving, and it's hitting that point where it's time for you to move. At least that's what you're thinking. And another like collective theme that's come up that I'm not exactly connecting to this energy, but I want to put it out there is the energy of the near miss, right? Think of how many things have happened in the last couple of weeks collectively that have been like a near miss, right? So there was the shooting that was almost a near miss, right? And then there was a meteor that exploded over New York City that was like a near miss, and there were a bunch of other things that were like it came close to striking or hitting or whatever it may be, but it's like each time things just kind of flew right by. And it's like I feel like there could be something like that happened in this situation where it was like one more near miss or stressful situation that you rescued the situation from, and it's kind of like the final straw. Whatever that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, in terms of thinking to yourself, I can't stay here forever. This is not going to work. Whatever the thing is, it's like taking the sign from the universe of like, okay, I'm guessing that the universe is encouraging me to move on, because again, these close calls and near misses and whatever keep coming. And I guess close calls in terms of, I'm thinking of like in terms of like a work environment where it's like it's typically like the lowest ranking, like in a restaurant, it'll be like the lowest ranking service person is the one that's saving the day all of the time, right? And the manager is typically oblivious to whatever it is that they've just been rescued from, right? So it's something like that where it's like you've had enough of those moments where you've saved the day, gotten no credit, and you're like, you know what? I think my energy might be used best elsewhere. But again, it's not. I'm not getting a tower moment. I'm not getting burn the bridge, salt the earth kind of energy. I'm really getting like I would love for this to have worked, but it seems to not be working. So I guess I might as well move. It seems like spirit is telling me to move, right? So that's the energy that I'm seeing with the pre-shuffle. So I have a Celtic cross on the table. It's showing me what's next and why. I don't think I'm going to do an extended for this one. I guess you'll see in the description box below. But if there's not an extended, you can definitely book a reading of your own. Shout out to everyone that booked readings. Sorry I've been away for the last week because I had a lot of readings to get out there. But thank you to everyone for your patience. And what else do I want to say? Oh, and thank you for everyone that's tipped or donated or anything like that. I really didn't think anyone would, and y'all have, so I appreciate that. It's Luna's Crunchy Fund. She's very happy. So I have a Celtic cross here on the table, and the card in the position of the now moment is the Knight of Cups with the cleanse energy behind it. Right? So this is where you're sitting right now. Knight of Cups, kind of contemplating this situation and wondering, is this the right ecosystem for me, right? Knight of Cups is all about finding the Goldilocks zone, the right ecosystem, something where it's like purpose and community and all of that align and you're where you're supposed to be. And again, it's like I feel like you feel like this is where you're supposed to be, right? That's why you've invested so much into it. And even though there's a lot that might be frustrating about it, there's still a lot that you love about the situation, right? Again, this could be work, romance, social, etc., whatever it may be. I think I'm going to use a work analogy just because the poetry of that analogy makes the most sense for me. But again, take it as it resonates. But again, it's kind of hitting that point where you realize, like, I don't think this, like, I might need to let go of this investment, right? I might need to cash in my chips on this one. And what I'm seeing for what's next and why, I have the Five of Pentacles and the Star card, right? So the Five of Pentacles is shutting something out in the cold. And I think that this is you shutting this situation out in the cold, walking away from this situation and keeping your warmth to yourself, right? So what I think you recognize is that it's like you're providing a lot of energy to whatever the situation is. You're the fuel that's warming it up. It's like I'm sure you've experienced this if you are, a very conscious manifester with powerful manifesting abilities. Anytime we're in a new work environment, we can't help but manifest for everybody around us, right? And see the vision and see the potential and how things should be. And because of our presence, because of our consciousness, whatever, it's like we see these dreams start to come true. But sometimes it's like, for whatever reason, we're not included in that dream. And of course, we don't get the credit for it because it's like, what are you going to do? Walk into the office and say, hey, y'all, I manifested this? Like, nobody's going to take that seriously, right? But that's what it feels like. It feels like not being taken seriously or not receiving your flowers for what it is that you've invested, right? Because it does seem like it's not paying off for you, whatever it is. It's like it's not coming full circle. Just like I said with the pre-shuffle energy, it's like losing patience with being patient, right? It's like in a lot of situations there's the dangling carrot, right, where it's like if you just keep moving forward you'll eventually reach this thing, but you never do. So it could be, in a work environment you would want recognition and a raise or a promotion. In a relationship it might be, wanting to take that relationship to the next level, whatever that might be. In a social ecosystem, it could be, wanting to be included or recognized or whatever it may be. You get what I'm saying. And what's interesting with this Five of Pentacles in terms of shutting something out in the cold is that, this is what's next and this is why, which is the Temperance card. And one aspect of temperance, like if you're trying to make tempered steel, tempered glass, is that the material needs to go through extreme fluctuations in hot and cold, right? So you're providing the warmth for this thing, the heat, the fire, the thing that really kind of brings it to life, keeps it going. Now you're providing the cold, right? And there's that contraction that happens. And it's like, again, I don't see you burning the bridge, torching the situation, salting the earth. I really see you very quietly retracting your energy, where it's just like having that moment at night, thinking to yourself, I love this situation and I wish it nothing but peace and success, but it's time for me to retract my energy and my support and my love from this thing and start directing it towards a new focus, right? All of this is happening internally, below the surface, very quiet, very not ruffling any feathers, right? And also likewise pointing that towards something else, right? Because again, if I'm going to use like the workplace analogy, it's almost as if you see the writing on the wall, right? You've invested a lot, all of that has been successful, none of the recognition has really gone towards you. So you see the fork in the road that's coming up. Either they're going to keep doing this and possibly even eventually let you go, or you're going to let them go and move up to the next level somewhere else, right? It goes in one of two directions. And it really has to do with the narrative, right? Because it's like the energy of what it is that you've created, the story has to wrap up somewhere, right? So do you want the story to wrap up with them letting you go or you letting them go, right? It's like as soon as you make that decision for yourself, it's like it reclaims the power, because it does seem like there's an issue with power dynamic, right? It's like you're waiting for some kind of permission, you're waiting for some kind of response, you're waiting for some kind of acknowledgement or validation, right? So it's like by giving it to yourself and saying, you know what, let me pour all of this into a resume and send it out, it completely changes the energy of the dynamic. And I think that whoever it is that you're in this dynamic with feels that and recognizes it immediately before you say anything. And it's not because you show up with an attitude, it's not because of anything like that. It's because just like psychically they know. They suddenly realize like there's a disturbance in the force and you are no longer providing the energy for this thing. And I'm seeing that with the next choice point that's coming up, which is the High Priestess, which the High Priestess is giving me the energy of somebody in this situation that recognizes that you want this next level, this next thing, but for whatever reason is hesitant or resistant towards giving it to you. It seems like there's a degree of anxiety behind it. And I think it's because most likely you are hyper overqualified for whatever position you're in. And I'm assuming that they recognize that you're going to be very difficult to replace in that position, right? They can move you up, that's excellent, but it's like whatever it is that you're doing is exponentially better. It's almost like, if Gordon Ramsay was working at McDonald's or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like clearly he's much better qualified to do anything, but like nobody has worked the fries the way that Gordon Ramsay is working the fries, right? And he wants to be the manager, but it's like, I really like you as the fry guy because I've never had anyone that's that good before. It's something like that, right? Where it's like, it's silly, and it's like I don't even really feel like it's coming from a necessarily like malicious or narcissistic or vindictive place on this person's behalf, but it's just, I guess you could say like short-sighted thinking, right? Where it's like trauma-based thinking for this own person's self or whatever it may be, because they're also showing up as the Nine of Wands here in terms of how it is that they're showing up and reacting to this. But behind the Nine of Wands, it says, I'm improving my health every day. And the Nine of Wands can talk about mental health and stress and anxiety and all of those things. And it's like, I think whoever it is that you're engaging with, whoever it is that you're hoping to get some sort of response from, is so bogged down by something in terms of anxiety that they can't actually see the bigger picture. So they are self-sabotaging as a result of that, and ultimately sabotaging this relationship. And they could be projecting some of that and creating tension or whatever it is, but it's like, it's something else beyond you, where it's like they're overwhelmed to the point where they're making short-sighted decisions, because ultimately the best decision that they could make would be to elevate you and put you in the position that you desire, right? That would be best for the overall ecosystem, right? But they're not seeing that for whatever reason because of this circumstance, or at least they're not giving it time, or in their head they're happy with the status quo, and and that's pretty much it. But how Spirit is involved, Spirit is showing up as the Queen of Swords reversed, right? So the Queen of Swords upright usually talks about the energy of the widow, right? So the widow is somebody, they haven't been broken up with, they haven't been dumped or left or anything like that, but they've been widowed, right? It's like a circumstance beyond control of either party, right? So by showing up as the Queen of Swords reversed, I feel like what Spirit is trying to do is basically like encourage yourself to put yourself back out on the market, right? Where it's like there's something about this dynamic that could be like on one side of the coin, it could be making you think that you're not ready to level up, and on the other side of the coin, it's like the lack of recognition, if anything, is making you realize how valuable you are, right? Where it's like, what am I trying to say? Where if it was a romantic relationship, it could be like being in a relationship with somebody that's not kind of treating you with the level of attention or whatever it is that you deserve. And it's like that in and of it's like the bad behavior is the catalyst for moving towards something good. I don't know how to say it, but it's like you're not, I'm not seeing that it's like you're taking it to heart and thinking like, oh yeah, I'm not ready to move on. It's like, if anything, it's like the lack of recognition from this situation is making you more ready to move on, if that makes sense. It's like encouraging you, because the cards behind it say, I deserve to experience love in my life, and I love money and money loves me, right? So both of these things are about reciprocity, right? So it's kind of like saying, if you don't want to give me the recognition over here, like, it's cool, no bad blood, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to seek the recognition elsewhere. It's like you can't expect me to stay here forever. If you can't afford me, I get it. It's cool, no bad blood, but I currently can't afford myself either. So it's like I need to move on to whatever this next level is, right? And again, it's like I feel like as soon as you make that decision in your head to put the energy elsewhere, to retract it, this one feels it. This one notices it immediately. And I think the situation changes, because it reminds me of just so many times in circumstances where as soon as I've decided to move on from something, everything shifts. and all of a sudden everybody has plenty of time, and they want to sit down and have a meeting with you and hear you out and blah blah blah. And so the energy that you're seeing in your environment is the star card with the surrender energy behind it, which is so interesting because these are very similar energies. But the star card is kind of giving me the energy of realizing that it's time to release whatever it is that you've invested in, right? So that's kind of like all that you can see in your environment, is that it's like you've done everything that you're supposed to do, right? This thing is in alignment with your purpose. You want it to work. You would love for it to work, but it's almost like, okay, I'm just the love for the situation. I give it to you. Do with it as you may, right? This is all happening psychically. It's like, do with it as you may. I hope nothing but the most success for you, but I do have to kind of surrender to the fact that this hamster wheel is going nowhere and I need to get off it and I need to go somewhere else. And it's not out of spite, it's just out of self-preservation, really. So like that's what you're seeing in your environment, but what you're not seeing is the 9 of Cups with flow energy behind it, right? So it's like you're very much so in alignment with your purpose, to the point where it's like whatever this situation is also a part of your purpose. Maybe not the situation itself, but at least like what you're bringing to it is in alignment with your star card energy in terms of renewal or healing or something like that, right? Because it's like you're seeking your ideal ecosystem, but it's like you need to bring something to this ecosystem. It's almost like you know what's missing in this environment, and all you want to do is implement that thing and be placed in a position where you can do that, right? To have the freedom to do it and to experience things the way that they should be, because it's like it would be so perfect for all parties involved, but you can't get it. So it's almost like psychically surrendering the idea where it's like, I hope you figure it out. This would be excellent for all parties involved, but I have to extract myself to move on to this next thing. So 9 of Cups, again, is the energy that you're not seeing. And 9 of Cups is the energy of having a fantastic resume, right? Which I think this high priestess knows and sees, right? And it's not just the value of your skills in terms of like, proficiency in Microsoft Excel. It's like this is like what you bring energetically to the team, right? The fact that you bring like motivation and joy and it's like you're kind of that thing that like makes it easier to be in that environment, right? And it's like as soon as you extract that, they feel it, right? They feel themselves being shut out in the cold, and it's like noticed immediately. And I think it creates a shift. And with the advice is the 7 of Swords, which is very much so the energy of the poker face, right? So it's one poker face versus another, the High Priestess and the 7 of Swords, where it's like they're not telling you everything that they're aware of, but you're also not telling them everything that you have in store for yourself. And this really does remind me of when I've worked in like bigger corporate environments where there are a lot of moving parts, and it's so difficult to get like a minute of attention from somebody that you need to actually have a conversation with in order to get anything done. It's like as soon as you're out the door, or they know that you're out the door, all of a sudden they have time for you, right? And it's something like that. So it's like, say this is a situation where you've put in your 2 weeks notice, or you've put in your thing, whatever it may be, that you've decided to move on from this situation. It's like as soon as that happens, I feel like there's one of two potential conversations that could play out. The one that you desire the most, and then one that you might be concerned or afraid about. So let's address that one first. The concern or the fear is that they might be upset, right? And they might react in some kind of way that might try to psych you out of whatever it is that you're doing. And what I would say is don't worry about that scenario. Don't feed that particular scenario. But if you need a stump speech to figure out how to deal with that, it's like you don't say anything until you have the next gig lined up. You don't put in your 2 weeks notice until you know I can quit today, is basically it. So that if that conversation does happen, it's like, you can respond to them by saying, I appreciate your concern, but I can actually start this job tomorrow. So if this is going to be a problem, that's okay. I can start this tomorrow. So that's one approach. Take it poetically as it resonates for whatever. But in terms of the ideal approach, what I'm seeing with Seven of Swords and the High Priestess is, in this situation that you would love to see work, but just have to leave because it's not moving, you're only going to get attention when you leave, right? That's what it seems like. As soon as you leave, you get attention. Everybody loves you. Everybody wants to work with you. They're asking if you can stay. That's when you say, this new job is offering me this much with these benefits, this title, sana sana sa. If you can beat that, not match it, if you can beat that, I would love to talk and I would love to stay. And if they say, oh, we're sorry because we can't, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But most likely, they are going to come to the table and negotiate, right? But with High Priestess and Seven of Swords, it's really kind of saying, like, this is the one thing that they don't have awareness of. What they do have awareness of is how valuable you are, your resume, what you bring to the table, what you've done for them. What you're doing at this next thing, they don't exactly know the full scoop of it, right? So it's like, you are welcome to present that however it is that's most advantageous for you, if that makes sense, right? So it's kind of like, if they do want to sit down and talk, don't quote them at the price that they've quoted you. Kick it up by another 20K or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Say that there's a sign-on bonus, right? That you're starting in this 2 weeks, and when you sign on, you're going to get X amount of dollars, right? So you need that from them too. Say that there's all of these other perks, whatever perks that it is that you want from the situation, but also say to this individual, right? Because I feel like what the High Priestess would say in that situation is, yes, we'll work it out and we'll do X, Y, and Z, and great, we'll get all of this in motion. And it's kind of like, you don't leave that meeting without two things: a timeline and a contract. The timeline is, this has to happen within the next 7 days. If this can't happen within the next 7 days, I can't agree to it. The contract is, I need all of these things in writing, signed off, that they go live in 7 days. In every work situation that I've ever been in, if they're serious, they put it in writing. If they're not serious, they don't put it in writing. When they aren't serious and you ask them to put it in writing, sometimes it can be a problem. And that's when you say, no worries, I'm not trying to ruffle no feathers, but I'm also trying to eat. I'm also trying not to starve. So unfortunately, I cannot do this. But again, it's like, I feel like you want to see this situation improve. And it's almost like you do have to checkmate them in that kind of thing, where it's like, I don't belong to you. I'm not chained to this hamster wheel. Yes, I'm fantastic, and I can take that fantasticness anywhere, but I'm losing patience with being patient because, this karmic reward hasn't come. It's like, I was expecting, the bonus last year, and you gave us all a Chili's gift card. You know what I mean? So it's a situation like that where it's like, pats on the back don't pay the rent, right? And in the same respect, it's like, you want to see this thing thrive, right? It's like, that's all that you want. So maybe that's also the thing that you say to this High Priestess. It's like, first and foremost, most of all I want is to see this place work the way that it should work. All I want is to see this situation be at its best and brightest and utmost, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty much it, right? I mean, what else could you want out of it? But I feel like that might be the music to the ears of this individual, right? But ultimately, it's like remembering that you have a clean slate, right? This is the role that you're supposed to play as the Ace of Swords. You have a clean slate in this situation, and you hold the pen, right? You kind of wield the sword in terms of choosing how this goes, right? And it's like, you want to see success, but there is also that nervousness that it's like, I could get left out in the cold here, right? I could be the one in the Five of Pentacles, because it's like, I've given them everything. I haven't really gotten that recognition, and the ball is in their court, where it's like, one day they could show up and say, oh, we're downsizing and thank you for everything you did, but we just don't need you anymore, right? Because they've extracted everything that they could possibly get, right? I'm not saying it's going to go like that, but it's like, that could be the fear. Oop, as all my lights collapse, right? Oy, oy, oy. Okay, so let's pull one more little oracle card just to see what the universe wants to say about this. I am passionate. I put my entire heart into the people and things I believe in. My passion is a powerful force. It is an eternal fuel. I recognize the strength of my passion, and therefore I'm careful where I focus to choose it. No, therefore I'm careful where I choose to focus it. There you go. My inner Dr. Seuss is coming out. I am passionate. So that's basically what that's your value here is your passion. Where it's like, listen, sitting down with the high priestess, I have an unlimited amount of passion. It's never going to go away, but in the same respect, I need it. If I'm going to scratch your back, I would like my back scratched as well. And it's like you're passionate about this thing, but there's nothing more frustrating to the energy of passion than when silly things get in the way of success, right? Where it's like, all I need is the freedom to be able to do this thing without having to ask permission every single time I do it. And it would be so easy, right? It's something I'm just thinking of like a situation that I worked in years ago where I was tasked with being the merchandiser for a store that I was working at. I was in charge of the window displays. And I would beg the person that owned this store to just let me collect the materials, right? Where I was like, give me a budget. Let me know how much it's going to be. I will approve everything through you. I will bring it to you to make sure that you're approving everything that I'm doing. But it's like, I can't wait for you to order it on Amazon or go to the store or find the time to do the thing. And it was always that, where it was like, I would have to wait for in every job where it's like all I need is the go signal where I can go and I can pick up this thing, right? Because it's like every window display I was doing was like anthropology kind of stuff, right? Where they're taking straws and newspapers and turning them into a whole carousel full of animals or whatever, right? It was always things like that. So I didn't need anybody's help. It was never that expensive. I just needed the permission to do it. And I was never allowed to start it because they wanted to assemble the things, right? And it was so silly because it's like you have so much on your plate. You're paying me to take things off of your plate. Let me take it off of your plate. Let me help you. Let me do what I'm supposed to do. I'm so passionate about whatever this is. I just want it to be successful and I just want it to help. But then things would always fall apart because I just wouldn't be able to do what I was supposed to do because I needed permission, which didn't make sense. And I digress, but it's like that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of something like that, where it's like this could be so easy. This could be literally so easy, and you already know that you're the expert in the thing. They know that you're the expert in the thing, right? It's like they've already given you. It's like that, where it's like they've given you the task, they've given you the permission to do it, but you know that you can't actually officially start it until they like what you get what I'm saying. I don't think I need to repeat that story anymore, but it's like that's the hamster wheel where it's like, okay, after a while it's just like it's frustrating, right? It's absolutely frustrating. So your passion is an eternal fuel. You want to take that somewhere. Another thing with this high priestess that I will say is, in terms of moving on to the next thing, right? There's going to be that conversation of, if you weren't happy, why didn't you say something, right? Why didn't you just talk to us first before X, Y, and Z? I wouldn't let them know that you put out resumes. I would not tell them that you were job hunting, that you found a new job. I would tell them that this new job found you. I would tell them that they recognized what it was that you were bringing to the table. They saw your work ethic. Three of Pentacles. They saw your craft. They approached you. They came to the table with this great offer, and you're only interested in staying with this high priestess if she's willing to go above that great offer, not match it, above that great offer, and put it all in writing and include in writing that it starts immediately. Right? We're not doing 30 days. There will be no terms. There will be none of this. You're matching it immediately, or I can start tomorrow. No big deal. And I wish you well. And I'm always going to be sending you love and light. But I hope you know that, I can only do so much. Collective, that's what I got for you. So keep on keeping on. And again, I'm not going to do an extended for this one, but if you'd like your own reading extended, hit me up. And again, thank you for all the donations and tips. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.